When we talk about what a trailblazer is, it's usually associated with the words pathfinder, pioneer, or vanguard. So how about we add change agent to that? Welcome to Trailblazers Radio, a unique podcast platform that speaks about a myriad of subjects. We are not afraid of opening closed doors, and we always tell it like it is, period. We are accessible on various social media platforms such as YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. We're also accessible on various streaming audio platforms such as Spotify, Google Podcasts, and so much more. It is our mission to ensure that you are educated, entertained, and edified. And we thank you for tuning in to us. What's up? Good evening, and good evening. Welcome to Man Cave Conversations / the check-in. This is the show where we talk about all things mental health from a male's perspective. I am your host, Mr. Frederick Beatty. First and foremost, thank you so very much for tuning in. We most definitely appreciate your viewership and your listenership. It means a lot to us. So I thank you in advance for that. And yeah, the song you heard at the beginning of the show was called Punitive Damages, created by yours truly, powered by BandLab. I've been having a blast with BandLab, creating tracks for this platform. So I've been having a blast with that. Before we jump into this particular subject, man, I want to thank everybody who's tuning in tonight. Brothers, if you are, I want you guys to tap in with us and meet me in the chat tonight, because yeah, we're gonna talk about some things here, man. Most definitely to tune into this. I just want to thank you guys for tuning in and thank you guys for being here. And so without any further delay, I want to preface this with something really quickly. Hey, Simone. What I'm talking about is something that a lot of people deal with, endure, or they circumvent. And it's something that a lot of us as men deal with. Doesn't matter the race of man. We as men all kind of deal with this, or kind of deal with this in a way. What I'm talking about, and I'll get to that in a moment. But I want to preface this with a disclaimer. Number one, I'm not a mental health professional. Number one. Number two, I don't claim to be. But what I am is a man with a unique set of experiences that I think and I hope that other men can draw from, and that they can use my experiences to try to help bolster and better their lives, to get them to think from a different point of view, a different perspective, a different way of seeing things that can help them bolster their lives and improve their lives. So I want to put that disclaimer out there. So one of the things that I won't even go into any detail. The thing that we're talking about tonight is based upon a Facebook post that I put out maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago. And what I'm talking about tonight is stigma. The stigma of mental health in men, especially Black men. Guys like me. It is something that affects all men. Number one. I'm gonna talk more. I'm gonna talk on a broad level, but I'm also gonna talk on a different level too. Yes, sis. I need a few brothers to roll up in here so we can have this conversation. This is kind of what I'm not gonna go too deep into it tonight, like I wanted to. But I do want to give a high level overview of it, though. What what I feel it is, and what I think the effects are for us as men, especially us as black men. Because again, this is something I talk about. This is not something I always talk about, but I talk about it. We're gonna talk about it from the macro instead of the micro. Um, Once I get more brothers in, we'll talk about it from the micro. So before we jump into that, let me give the Merriam-Webster's definition of the word stigma, and the synonyms that could be associated with it. Give me 1 second. Stigma is a noun. It means a mark of disgrace associated with a particular circumstance, quality, or person. The synonyms that are associated with that can be shame, disgrace, dishonor, um, stain, taint, blot, mark, blemish, brand, slur, smirch, discredit. Those are the synonyms that those are other words that could be associated with stigma. But I think it goes a little bit deeper than that. And I'm going to say that this is going to be a hard pill to swallow for a lot of people, men and women included, because I think if we're going to talk about something like this, something that's so broad as stigma, I think we need to kind of narrow it down. I feel that it needs to be narrowed down just a little bit from in certain aspects. And I'll talk about those aspects here shortly, but I want to say this, that the stigma that is associated with when it comes to mental health and us as men, black, it doesn't matter the race of man, black, white, um, Asian, whatever. There's this large stigma that comes with this for mental health in men. This stigma comes from, and I this stigma comes from a long period, and a being lack of not being taught how to embrace, acknowledge, and understand our emotions as men. I said this in a podcast before. We were never taught as men how to embrace our emotions, um, how to understand our emotions, how to acknowledge our emotions, how to understand our emotions. We were taught to internalize. We were taught to internalize. We were taught to keep it all inside, keep it all bottled up, keep it all where it needs to be, which is, well, not where it needs to be. We were taught this. We were most definitely taught this. It also stems from the negative way that we as men view our emotions. We view our emotions in a very, very negative and very, very, very negative way. Very, and I think in a negative way, I can also say a dishonest way, because we do view our emotions. We don't look at our emotions honestly. We do look at them dishonestly, and there's this large thing that comes with that they're always told that we're not supposed to show these emotions. We're not supposed to let these strong emotions that we feel out. And we were told to just bury them, keep them deep, keep them deep inside of our inside the recesses of our hearts and our souls. And yeah, that causes a lot of pain. And like I said, way that we as men who were taught, we were always taught to just like, nah, we're not gonna do that. We're not gonna we're not there's no crying here. There's no emotions here. There's no you're not gonna shed a tear here or none of that. You're not gonna shed a tear here, none of that stuff. There's no need for that. You're not doing that. And we look at other men when they display when they display strong emotions such as sadness, depression, and things of that nature. Other men look at other men and they look at other men with disdain. When I say disdain, I mean disdain. They call this guy all kinds of soft, all kinds of weak, all kinds of other disparaging and discouraging words. And I'm gonna say this, and it's probably gonna draw the ire of a lot of people, but some of our women, and I say some, I don't say all. Some of our women don't make it no better, don't make it any better. And again, I'm not saying that phrase to be argumentative. I'm not saying that phrase to be to be divisive. I'm not saying that phrase to say to start any type of strong debate. Though if you though we though if there if you want to debate, we can most definitely debate that in the chat or whatever. But I'm not saying that in any to me to be disparaging in any way, shape, or form. I am saying that because it is factual. Some men, some men look at other men who express their emotions. They look at them as being soft and weak. Some women who look at men who express their emotions look at men as being soft and weak. And there are other things. There are other malfactors that could I could talk about that could go into that because and yes, Kai, yes, Diamond Butterfly, that is true. That is very, very true. Women were taught that men should not be emotional. That's true. But again, that is a narrative that needs to be rewritten, not changed, rewritten. You know, we talk about narratives being changed, and it takes too long to change a narrative because the current narrative has already been ingrained in a whole bunch of people, and we need to rewrite that narrative. Yes, sis, I can agree with I can agree with that on all levels. There has been some lopsided teaching in how we as men are supposed to express ourselves or how we're supposed to acknowledge what we feel, acknowledge how we feel. Rewriting. So, Mr. Mason, I'll say this: who gets to hold the pen? Whoever wants to hold the pen to write the narrative. Whoever wants to hold the pen to write the narrative, to rewrite the narrative. I would say that narrative needs to be rewritten by because we're talking about men. I think the narrative needs to be rewritten by men because there are a lot of us out here who are who do embrace their emotions, who do acknowledge and who do understand their emotions, and it doesn't impact us at all. It doesn't really impact us at all because we know who we are. We know who we are as men. Being a person who acknowledges and embraces and recognizes and acknowledges their emotions doesn't make you less of a man. It doesn't. And I'm sorry to say that, yeah. So I'm sorry to say this, and a lot of people are gonna again, they're going to rail against this, but the things that our fathers and our grandfathers taught us was wrong. Even though in the context of it, it was correct, but it was wrong. In the context of it, it was correct because our fathers and our grandfathers and their fathers before them wanted us to be wanted to be stable men, stable, impactful society produced, society contributing to men. And that is true, sis. That's the that system did do that to us. It forced us to watch as our and watch as just watch as and our our children and our women get ravaged, and we had no say so. None. And the reason I'm putting all this the thing about stigma out here is one of the things that I want to say is that, like I said, some men who act like they're quote unquote man's man, which to me there's no such term, and some women who look at men that display emotions as weak, they want that. They wonder why number one, why there's no good men out here. Number one. Then they wonder why men remove themselves from this plane of existence at a higher rate. They wonder why that happens. It is it is a known fact that the rate that men remove themselves from this plane of existence is higher than women. It is a known fact. But even with that, there are so many other things that go into why this stigma with us as men and emotions persist. Number one is childhood. One of the things I want, and these are, I'm not going to say these are reasons, but I'm building towards some other things, building towards some other things about the effects of stigma. And one of the things one of the things that I think is one of a major part of it is that trauma plays a large part in how anybody, whether it's male or female, trauma plays a large part in how we navigate our emotions. Negative aspects in our childhood, negative aspects in our adulthood have play a large role. They literally rewrite our life story in ways that we are not even prepared to handle. And yes, this trauma can be a bully, a very mean and persistent bully, a very mean and persistent bully. Childhood trauma, adulthood trauma, trauma from a lot of things. Now, I'm not saying that trauma is the major factor. It is not, but it plays a factor. The other thing plays a part in it is just how we've been raised, how we as young men and young boys have been raised. I said this in a podcast before. There are so many. There are a lot of social political malfactors that play a part in how we as men have been taught and been raised, how we've been taught in this society, how we've been instructed to handle ourselves in this society. A lot of those social political malfactors with, especially us with black men, from start they start it starts it begins from the slavery days, but it all but it continues past Jim Crow. It also continues past a lot of other things. So many things that have gone against us as black men in this society. And I'm not saying that to be this going to be this is the end all be all of it, because it's not. But these are things that contribute to it. These are things that have added on to it. Always being, always being the target of always being the target of the target of always being the target of racism and um, police harassment and brutality, um, being the being the victim of socio political constructs such as mass incarceration, such as um, the welfare and the welfare system that gave women gave women. And I'm not saying, and again, I'm not saying this to be divisive. I'm saying this because it's 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 a factual thing. The the Medicaid and the welfare system and Section 8 that gave women the power to have their own, but also exclude the black male from the household. And then we have other factors that come with that too. The Such as this, and I'm not even gonna call it a war. I'm not even gonna call it a conflict. It's this failure for us as black men and black women to get along, to coexist in the same space. It's always got to be a competition or some sort of conflict between us as black men and black women, and we can't coexist in the same space. And then the minute a guy expresses his emotions, that man is instantly ostracized and put down and stuff like that. And he's put down not only by some of the women, but he's also put down by some of the men. And how can we do that? How do we as men express our emotions when we've been taught to suppress? We've been taught to hide. We've been taught to keep these things hidden not not put them out in the open, because if we put those things out in the open, what happens? Mostly, in some instances, what happens is that we get exposed. T, what's up, bro? How you doing? You muted, man. You muted.
Ah,
There we go. So you came in at the right time. At the right time. So I was saying. So when we as men could get to these points to where we express our emotions, it's downplayed. It's frowned upon. It's not looked at in a positive light, and it's always being at a point to where emasculation occurs, and
yeah.
that's not cool.
No, it's not. It's not. It's not. And it's probably a situation um, where it's become routine. There's probably women out there that don't.
Hey, Kenyatta.
Some women may not even know they're doing it. You know what I mean? Like they may
True.
not know that they're downplaying it. Those I feel those are far and few between. I think a woman knows a woman knows what she's doing when she does it. I do. But yeah, I think we are. It is downplayed. It's downplayed in a big way, and it took a lot for me to open myself up to my wife because I've
Mm,
had that experience where my feelings have been downplayed, my thought process has been downplayed. So
mm-hmm.
it took a lot. Like I broke down a couple weeks ago with my wife, and it's a hard thing to do. As a man, it's hard. It's not easy because so often, like you said, it's downplayed. Our emotions, our feelings, our thoughts are downplayed.
Right, and that's true. And there are things that you know I we're talking about stigma here. So, and there's some things that stigma does that I believe as men that we have to be we have to be cognizant about. Yeah, I hear what you're saying, Kenyatta. I do what you I hear what you're saying, but just the last part of that phrase makes me not want to be bothered. That's the reason why some men suppress their emotions or compartmentalize their emotions or hide their emotions. If you don't want to be bothered with me, if you don't want to be bothered with me when I'm in this state, then you don't want to be bothered with me when I'm happy. You don't want to be bothered with me when I'm up. If you don't want to be bothered with me when I'm down and I'm not really saying much, then you really don't want to be bothered with me when I'm happy. That's kind of like that's that's like picking two sides, and that's like picking two sides, and you can't pick one side without getting the other side. It's kind of like a sword with two edges. You can't you can't expect not to get you can't not want to get cut by one edge and then not expect the other edge to cut you too. I mean, it has to go both ways. And there are and believe you me, my journey with my emotions has been a tough one. And just like, like Tony said, he's broken down in front of his wife. And and the thing of it is that when the stigma that comes with us and emotions is that because we don't there are no play there's no safe harbors for us to dock into when those seas
Mhm.
get rough. We
Nope.
can be buffeted, we can be tossed to and fro in that sea of whatever we're going through, and all we want to find is safe harbor. We just want to find a lighthouse and a safe harbor to pull into.
Yeah, you are so right on that. Because it's. I don't think that some women, I don't think understand that there are men out there that do want to be open and honest with their emotions. They do want to be open and honest with their feelings and feel. My wife used to use the word validated. You know what I mean? And sometimes not necessarily that we're right in what we're saying or thinking, but at least if we have an emotion, if we have a thought or a feeling, we do have emotions and we do
Yeah,
have feelings,
I understand,
and
Kenyatta.
we do like to hear or have them heard,
Mm-hmm.
without the fear of. Because I'm gonna tell you, it took a lot for me to break down in front of my wife because that stigma that like you were talking about, Fred. There's that stigma. Men are
Mm-hmm.
supposed to be strong. We're not supposed to be sensitive. We're not supposed to pour out our feelings. We're taught at a young age we're not supposed to cry. As a man, it's the phrase "man up" was huge when I was growing up. Man up.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
Still
hard
is.
to
Still
release
present.
those feelings. You have to be comfortable with the person you're with. As a
Mm-hmm.
man, you have to be comfortable with the woman you're with to know that you can release your emotions, your feelings, and thoughts to them. Um, because if we don't feel we can, and we've been taught otherwise, and that stigma's been riding, it's a hard thing to do. And
Oh
I
yeah.
can appreciate what she was saying, Fred, about she wants she wants her man to be able to show emotion. I got that, but what we're saying is that's hard to do as a man sometimes, because we
Mm-hmm.
are, and you're right, we're human. Men are human too, and I think that gets lost in the equation. I really do. I think it gets lost, and we are in a situation where we're taught that the norm is to hold in our emotions. The norm is to not, because if we show them, it's a sign of weakness. Not
No, of
really,
course it.
but that's what we're taught. And a lot of
Oh
women
yeah.
out there have seen it that way. Yeah, I mean, Fred, have you ran into women that have downplayed you because they thought you were too sensitive?
Mm, yeah. That's happened. That's happened on more than one occasion.
Yeah,
And one of the things I just had to do, I just had to I had to shrug it off and kind of like put it to the side because I mean, at the end of the day, at the end of the day, and this is kind of a it's a sad and a cliche thing to say. At the end of the day, I still got to move forward. I still got to do what I got to do as a man to kind of make sure things are the way they are, which which leads me to one of the things that I want to talk about, that I want to briefly talk about what stigma does to an individual, especially as a to a man. One of the things that I wanted, one of the things, one this is number one. Stigma carries weight.
It does.
What do I mean? What do I mean by that? Fred, what are you talking about? What you mean by that? Why is that? Stigma carries weight because especially when, and before I even go any further, I want to I'm prefacing this part of it based upon someone a good friend of mine that I've known for quite some time. Um, she lost she she lost her husband because he removed himself from this plane of existence. And there's a weight that stigma carries on it, especially when we're talking, especially when family and or friends ridicule you for not trying harder to overcome your struggles and your problems, even though you know you're giving it your very very best to do so. You're And they don't acknowledge the fact that you're human just as them, or they suggest that you're a man, you're supposed to deal with this, you're supposed to handle all this, and if you don't do it, if you don't handle it the way a quote unquote man should, you're weak. And so
Hmm.
stigma carries weight. There's a lot of weight with that, because if you know that you're doing your damnness to overcome your struggles, whatever those struggles are, struggles with um struggles with your own mental health, or struggles with an addiction, or struggles with um trying to just be the best father you can be, the best husband you can be, the best individual you can be, and you're doing the best that you can, and you're still being ridiculed by family and friends. There's a weight that's attached to that. Every time you hear someone says that you're a failure, every time you hear someone say that, when you if you if you find yourself at a weak moment and you want to break down and you want to cry, or you just want to have a moment to yourself to where you can just take a few deep breaths and be like, oh God, I just want this to get better.
Hmm.
Even when you're doing your best, and people and your family and friends ridicule you, and people kick you to the curb because of that, that's weight. And that's weight that's more weight that's already on top of already encumbered shoulders. I just I don't know, man. I feel that that's one of the things that we as men, that we carry that weight, because, and I've look, I'm gonna be honest, I've carried that weight of doing the best that I could, doing the very best that I could to get all my ducks in a row, to try to get everything that I was trying to get handled, fixed, taken care of. And it was still self-destructing around me, even though I was doing my best to try to plug the holes in the dam.
Right. Right.
The plug the holes in the dam. I only got 10 fingers, and there's 20 holes. I can't plug the rest of them. You know what I'm saying? I can't plug the rest
Yeah.
of them. So, I mean, what you think about that part of it, man?
Listen, I have to agree. I have to agree, and I lived that as well. I lived that heavy. The Can I be transparent for a minute? Like,
Yeah, no,
can I put everything on the line here for a second?
bruh. I don't know why you
Listen,
asked that. You already know.
I know it was rhetorical. I got you, but here's the thing. Before my wife I have now, I was with a woman who was the prime example of what we're talking about now. And I'm not going to get out here just to talk. I'm not trying to talk anybody down. I'm going to say from my aspect of it, I was emotionally and mentally abused.
Mm.
This woman played with my emotions like you would not believe. This woman played with my mental. I allowed my mental to be played with because I was trying to do, like you said, Fred, things got to get done, got to move forward. I did not see it as abuse until I left the relationship. I had
Mm.
it beat me down. I did not feel like a man, and I wasn't allowed in that situation to speak. I
Right.
wasn't allowed to voice my opinion without being wrong. Like I
Right.
couldn't talk about my feelings, because I was expected to be a particular way, do particular things. And at the same time, some of those things that needed to be done, she wanted them done her way. You know what I mean? So me trying
Mm.
to have a conversation with her, point out an opinion, and then even in my head, that made me feel weak. To look at it from another angle, that made me feel weak. But again, I was in the relationship for it in the name of love. I was in the relationship to get stuff done and to make her happy. That's my
Mm.
goal. You know what I mean? And there is a difference, ladies. There's a difference. The woman that I am married to now, I love her to death. That woman is for me, has my back. Now, she doesn't expect me to, when I broke down in front of her one day, she did not expect me to break down. And when I broke down in
Mm.
front of her about some things I was feeling, it wasn't something that she had ever dealt with, because brothers come hard, because that's how we're taught.
Right.
So on the other end of that spectrum, it took her by surprise. And that says something. You know what I mean? That says a lot. But I've been there, done that. Like I traveled that road. And it's
Mm-hmm.
hard as a man, you know, at the same time that I was being broken down, I'm expected to be a man. The way I broke down
Mm-hmm.
with my wife, current wife, okay, she was able to be there for me, had my back. We were able to sit down, have a conversation about some things that I was dealing with. But I couldn't have did that with the one that mentally abused me. I couldn't do that. I couldn't. I would have been looked at like I had five heads, and there was something definitely wrong with me, and I knew that. So I never really voiced my opinion like that. I did, but I didn't. You know what I'm saying? Like I felt like I was in a catch-22. I was in a trap of sorts, and
Oh
it's
yeah.
hard. It's hard for a man to stand for, when you love a woman, when you have a real man, and that real man loves a real woman, she's going to be there, and he's going to
Mm-hmm.
be there when it comes down to the emotional, not just the financial, not just the sexual, but the emotional plays a part. The mental plays a part. And know what you're getting into before you get into it. Because if I'm an
Mm-hmm.
emotional man and I get with a woman and we don't have a conversation, and I don't know that she's not an emotional type, or I don't know that she's not gonna receive my emotions if I go through something, that relationship's gonna have a problem. So I mean, I believe, and it's just me, but I believe that again, that goes back to, yeah, we need to communicate. We need to conversate. What kind of man do you want? What kind of woman do
Man.
you want? Because at the end of the
Yes,
day,
sir.
if we don't have that conversation, like
Mr.
we
Mason.
that's a pointed conversation right there.
How's it going, sir?
That's a conversation that needs to be had, because if I get into a relationship with a woman, I need to know that she's got my back. It's not about
Absolutely.
I need to have those moments where I gotta break down, so you gotta be ready when it happens. It's not about that. It's, if
Right.
anything
Right.
were to
Right. Right.
happen, yeah, if anything were to happen, are you gonna be there? Is it gonna be is are we living in that stigma? Are you the type of woman that is gonna get bent out of shape and think less of me and treat me less than I ought to be treated, because you don't feel I should be emotional, or you don't feel I need to put on the persona of being strong. You know what I mean? So if I cry or if I complain about something, then I'm being weak. Yeah, I don't want no weak
But
man. Okay, but that's not a sign of weakness. I mean, that's what you were taught. So if that's how
true.
you think, we need to know that before we get into this relationship, because I'm
Yeah.
gonna treat you a particular way. You let me know what
Yeah.
you need, I'll let you know what I need, and if we can supply them needs, then we can move forward. Otherwise, and I'm an advocate for that right now because been there, done that. I lived that torture. I lived it. Didn't have that
Mm.
conversation. I lived that torture. And I'll be honest with all y'all. I lived that torture for like 15 years. So I know what I'm talking about. We need to have those conversations because it's not gonna be pretty in the end. You're gonna wind up with
Mm-mm.
somebody who thinks lesser of you, and half of the time, women won't tell you that they think lesser of you. They just will
No.
treat you like they think lesser of you. So it comes in the form of resist. I got this weak behind man. Now they're feeling
You thinking
resentful.
you thinking you're a prince, but they think, but in their mind you're a pauper. You're a pauper.
Right. And they're going to the beauty salons or they're walking the mall or they at their girl's house and they're talking about how weak you were. When you were at a vulnerable moment and you chose to show your emotions, that became a weakness in her head. So now
But
she thinks you're weak and she's not going to tell you, but she's going to tell her girls. He's weak.
oh, dude,
Next thing you know, because you're weak, because she thinks
but
you're weak, now she's going to get with the next dude while she's
but
still
see,
with
but
you.
dudes do the same. The dudes do the same. Dudes do the same thing that girls do.
We
They do
do.
that. Women. We
We do.
but the funny thing, the thing about it is, we do it way bad. We do it way worse. Way way
Now I
worse.
need you to elaborate on that part for me, boss, because like I know we do women bad. I'm an advocate for women. Anybody that knows me knows that. Like I'm about to write a book. My lips are God's ears. I'm about to write a book about it. I'm gonna do my what's his name, Steve Harvey impression when it comes to a book. I'm about to write one. Men can be really doggish to women.
But they
We've
could be
got. I
but we
feel we
doggish to
got
but we
that on
dog each
lock.
other.
Yeah, we. I think we have that on lock. But
But
that's not the
we dog each other out
conversation.
way worse.
Oh yeah,
Way worse.
but
I mean,
the
we call it
conversation. But the topic, though, boss. The topic is that men men are treated in a particular way because we're considered weak if we show emotion. For
mhm.
me, I think women do show their emotions for the most part. I think at least 7 out of 10 women do show you how they feel.
7%.
They tell you how they feel.
Yeah. I feel you on that, boss. I do.
I
Mr.
I I
Mason.
don't I don't think we know how to handle it half the time like them. I don't think we always know how to handle it. But then again, I think a lot of men nowadays, they come into a relationship like I'm the head, I'm the boss, I'm this, I'm that. So they
Mm,
focus on that aspect of it. And when a woman is sensitive, I think, in all honesty, I think men expect women to be. I think women's men sometimes expect women to be sensitive. I honestly
mm,
do,
mm.
and that's why they treat them like they do half the time.
Okay, so yeah, off topic real quick, and I want both of you guys to see if they answer this question. Off topic real quick because you just said something about men come walking in being the head, bro. What makes you think you gonna be the head and you ain't earned that title yet?
Thank you, thank you, thank you,
You
thank
ain't the
you,
head if you ain't earned that damn title.
thank you,
You can't walk into a situation thinking you the king of the castle and you ain't been properly christened and crowned and coronated.
bro.
What's
Talk
wrong with
that.
that? What's
Come
wrong
on
with
now,
that?
tell it,
You can't
tell
walk.
it.
No. If you think you're gonna be, if you're a dude, I hate to say this, if you one of them dudes that think that way, I need you to rethink your whole frame of mind because you walk into a situation like that with a woman, with a woman, and you thinking you gonna be the head. No, sir. No, sir. You gotta, just like she has to earn, just like she gotta earn the thing to be your wife, you gotta earn the thing to be her husband. You can't walk
Come
into and
on.
be like, boom, I'm the HNIC. No, it don't work that way, man. It doesn't
Thank
work
you.
that way.
Thank you.
How
See, I love
you
you.
can't
I
walk into
love
a
you, bro.
situation not earn that spot.
You have to
If
earn that spot, man. You have to. Right now, you got dudes that are dating women and they're treating them like, okay, you ain't, where's my dinner? You know, or you know I'm expecting X, Y, and Z. Why ain't you delivering when it comes to certain little things inside the house or whatever? But the thing is, dog, you ain't even married to her. So why are you treating her? Why are you treating her like you the king of the castle? Y'all don't have a castle that you share yet. She's not obligated to you till you put a ring on it. And even then, like, oh my goodness, Lord,
you
I
still
thank
gotta
you.
earn it.
You gotta earn that. Come on.
You gotta earn it.
Can I
They don't.
chime
They
in here,
don't.
gentlemen?
By
Come
all
on in
means.
here. Come on in here, Mr. Mason. Come on in here.
Sure. I'll say a little bit and I'll get out the way. Well, good afternoon, gentlemen. Good evening, everyone.
Yes,
So
sir.
just to, I guess, to weigh in. I mean, this is a great topic for us to really dissect, and definitely appreciate you allowing me on here to say a little bit. But what I'll say is this: that um, undoing undoing that stigma, and I'm a firm believer that it is institutionalized. It's woven into the into the fabric of the constitutions and the laws that be, and even perpetuated in some of the shows we watch. Like when you look at, for example, like paternity court, it's eighty
Oh
percent
man.
black folks. It's like we are, and then we watch those shows. We watch and we see what's going on. It doesn't outrage us. It's just kind of like we just want to know if they're the father or not, or things like that. And we are celebrating our own demise. And so we are watching um, people, hurt people who hurt people on national TV. You know what I mean? And so I really feel like when it comes to getting this weight off our shoulders, we have to first believe ourselves that, this is the problem. Because some people don't believe that. And we were talking about how men come in thinking they're the man. We have literally worn trauma as a badge, as now the world owes us something. And we look to the next, to our left or to our right, we see this woman and we say, well, this woman owes me something based on what I went through, based on the traumas that I've been through. Now you owe me, as if
Mm,
it's their response to pay reparations for the things you went through that you refuse to heal from, that you
mm,
refuse to seek out therapy and things like that. Even our response to therapy, it shows that we have a problem because people say, well, you don't need therapy. You're a man. Just suck it up and things like. There's people who are paid to help you work through, to help you overcome, and all these things.
mm,
And we turn a blind ear to it because the trauma that we wear as a badge tells us that we don't need nobody. We don't need nothing. And then some of our women, as we said, some of our women have furthered that conversation, unfortunately, to the point where they're believing the hype along with us. And so when we fall off, they fall off too. Because,
mhm,
we were big and bad at some point and they believed it and they gave us what we felt we were owed. And sometimes not so much, but we would move on to the next person who would do so. And so
mhm,
it goes back to, if we're going to heal and we're going to overcome trauma, we have to understand that the stigmas that are attached to those things are a problem. As long as we don't see them as a problem, then we feel like the way we act and the way that we carry on is a solution. And unfortunately, it's showing that it's not, because it's more of us that are not. There's more of us in jail. There are more of
mhm,
us that are not achieving. That are not pursuing higher education. And so in so many ways and shapes and forms that if we're not going to see that as a problem, we can look at the numbers and that would show us that the way that we think and the way that we carry ourselves, like we do, like we're big in that. Unfortunately, we've only shown our weakness, and that's that we're willing to believe anything that puts a dollar in our pocket, that gives us something at night, and things like that. And so my opinion is this, and I will say that I came up with the same beliefs. If not, I grew up my grandparents coming up, and so it was definitely no crying, this, that, and the other. Don't show any emotion and things
Hmm.
like that. But on the side of being in a relationship, it's kind of two sided because I've dated people who were like embrace that emotion, and then some that say, keep it to yourself. So there's this mixed signal that's being sent out, where we don't know exactly what we need to be, where we
Right.
need what we need to actually do in a relationship construct,
Hmm.
and I've been in a lot of terrible relationships that they that we weren't allowed to express that range of emotion. And then once we did, it was like the way the impact, some can't handle that. And so then now we're like, all right, well, I got to tuck this back away because I see that you can't handle what it is I have to unload, and we have to understand what we're unloading is not, it's not within our direct lens. This is generational. What we're laying down, what we have potential to lay down is generational. And so
Right.
our women have to be in a position where they can actually receive that kind of impact. And a lot of times that has to be done, in my opinion, it has to be done potentially in a therapy construct, or, in a circle of, our people, that
Hmm.
understand, that can help, to help unpack those things, because we are unpacking more than just our personal experiences. Our personal experiences are just what we see in front of us, but what's behind us and what's happened to our forefathers, and onward, things that we haven't brought to the forefront that we don't even know that's there, unfortunately, factors into the reasons why we do the things that we do. And I'm personally fortunate, to be, I've been married to my wife almost 9 years, and we've been together 13 years. And I've been fortunate to be with somebody who allows that space, and so it has allowed me to embrace a different person, if I could say that right, embracing a
Right.
whole different person than what I could have been had we not gotten together. Because after being tossed to the side so many times, at some point, what the reality becomes is now we become distrusting. So we further our own narrative just based on our experiences. It's like, well, see what happens when I express my emotion, this happens. So now I'm not going to do
Hmm.
that. See, when I do this, this happens. And so naturally, throughout those experiences, we practice avoidance. We,
Right.
and we think it's a safe space for us to just avoid, but really what we're avoiding, is exactly what I feel that women see as a problem. It's like we are, we're just total robots. We're not emotional, things like that. And the very thing that they want us to be, and for some of us, then the things we want to be, we're afraid to be. We're afraid of what implications can come from truly letting those emotions be what they are, truly laying out that I'm not going to be a part of the stigma, and I see the stigma as a problem, and then truly laying
Hmm.
out that as far as this relationship goes, as far as this marriage goes, you know, this is a two-way street that we both travel down. And
Yep.
so, I mean, it's a two-way street. Like they say, it takes two to tango, things like that. And so, if we're really going to overcome, it begins from the top, and it begins from undoing what's already being written in the law books, what's being written in the Constitution. As a lot of us know, the Constitution was written while most of those presidents and those that be had slaves in their backyard, things like that. And they were telling us that we're all created equal, that we are all this, and we all, and that didn't include us, you know.
Mm-mm.
And so
Not at
now that we
all.
didn't got free, now that we didn't got, the chains taken off, there's a chain around our minds, unfortunately, that's psychological, And then unfortunately, instead of trying to work to undo the chain, we're tightening that. And we're allowing others to tighten that chain,
Mm,
And so I'm a firm believer that, we have to undo it on that level. And then we have to, like you just said, we have to rewrite the narrative. And as I said before, like who gets to hold the pen, I think that's something that men and women should hold together in a sense,
mhm, mhm.
because sure, we can write the narrative, but it can't come from a place of trauma. It can't come from a place of being in alignment with the stigma. So if we're not there, then yeah, we might need some help from those on the outside that understand, but lastly, I'll say this is that we have the ability to overcome, and there's been so many things that we've overcome as Black men, and though we have so much further to go, we have to take this moment to acknowledge what we've overcome, because now this kind of conversation we didn't. I mean, as far I mean, I'm not that old. I'm only in my 30s, I've never had this conversation. I've never had this conversation in a construct, until I became much older. But now people that are my parents' age and things like that, they're wanting to have that conversation now. And so I believe that the process is gradual, but we are undoing it slowly. But if we're going to overcome the stigma, if we're going to overcome trauma, we have to begin to see it as a problem. And as long as we don't see it as a problem, then we believe that the way we carry ourselves is a solution. I got to be hard all the time. I can't show no weakness and things like that. We wear that as a badge, and we have to take that badge off if we're truly sold out, and we truly don't want our children and grandchildren and so forth to have to go through the same stuff.
That's true, and I agree with you with that wholeheartedly, 100%. I think and you guys will probably agree with me on this one. I think one of the things that we as Black men, I think we accept readily is the despondency, the despair, the the depression, and all the other and everything that goes with it. And that's one of the other things I think stigma does. Stigma does too. It has a propensity to destroy somebody. It destroys their self confidence. It destroys their their happiness, and it replaces it with feelings of despair, despondency, and depression and feelings of unworthiness. And I think we as Black men, those are emotions that we readily accept sometimes. Most in most cases. We're okay if we live. We're okay if we're living in desperation or despondency, or if we're feeling like we're unworthy in 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 most cases, because we're okay in that emotion because we've been in that emotion for so long. It's it's a familiar place. So when we go to another place such as elation and happiness, it's unfamiliar territory. It's like we in a whole different place, and we don't know how to deal with this, and we don't know how to act with that. And I think we've been in those places, those desperate, those despondent, and those unworthy places for so long. It's like, and I say it from my own personal experience because I mean, I ain't gonna lie. I pitched a couple of tents in those emotions. I built a whole house in those emotions. So I'm not gonna front about that. I built a house in unworthiness. I built a house and I've added desperation. I've added despondency and depression as add-ons to that house. And to see how big that house was, and to walk around in it, made me really put me in a way that I was like, well, gee, well, dang, I don't know if I want to live in this particular house because it's always doom and gloom, and the shades are always pulled. The shades are always pulled back. It's always pitch dark in here. There's no sunlight in here. There's no light. There's nowhere. There's nothing that light touches. And I don't know. I mean, you guys could probably agree with me or not with that. I mean, I know from me, my personal experience, I've built a house in despair. I built a house with a foundation of despair, with the walls of the sheetrock of being of despondency and everything else with depression on top of it, and then unworthiness as a roof. And boom, here's my house. And then I put other add-ons to that, such as sadness, such as and other indifference behind in front of that. on top of that or in it. And I don't know. It makes a very, I don't know. I'm trying to find the right word I can use with that. It makes for a very unhappy is
But
kind of sort of unhappy would be the wrong. I mean, it would be the right word to use, but I don't think it would describe what I'm thinking at the moment. So I guess I'll
I
just use
think,
unhappy.
yeah, I mean, I would say, I mean, I've done the same, and unfortunately, it's always population one every time. It's always population one. You build this big house, 4 bedrooms, 4 baths, and it's just you. You know what I mean? And so unfortunately, um, we have part of that's a choice we make, and sometimes some things we accept, but then some things we actually choose,
Yeah.
and so because it's often easier than dealing with the problem,
Uh,
and so that goes back to the point that I made earlier is avoidance, and so you don't want to engage in that, you don't want to feel that hurt that you felt in that relationship, and you don't want to, deal with your own, you know, um, like I said, what's in your immediate and your personal expenses. And so,
right.
there's already that, psychological chain that's trying to keep tightening on us based on what's happened in our past. But what we do right now, what we do at this very moment, or even things that we have done can only loosen or tighten that chain, And so to that, it has to be a choice. And I'm thankful that um, I'm not in that position anymore. But a lot of reasons why I began to pitch that tent is because I entered into relationships with people who were also hurt.
Mm.
And
Hurt people.
so
Hurt people.
they, exactly. So hurt people. And so instead of both of us trying to elevate, you know, just like we make choices, she made choices to stay within that house that we were talking about. She made a
Mm.
choice and I'm sitting here trying to throw pebbles at the window, trying to get her to come out. You see what I'm saying? I don't have a
Right.
lock and key to get in, so I'm trying to say only you can come out of it. And there are some women out there, and I say my wife was the one that kind of kept throwing the pebbles out. And eventually, I came out, and you know
Right.
what? I sold that house, you know,
Right.
and so we have to get the business of selling that house, and saying and if there is a house that we're gonna have, is the one that we stay in together, the one that we
That's
choose to buy. And that's
that's true.
that's what that is what it comes back around to. But it starts with again understanding the way of the trauma because a lot of times we don't understand. We don't understand the generational impact of simply venting that particular emotion and saying, "Well, I feel this particular way." Even if they may not agree, like they may not see you eye to eye, or whatever the situation might be. They may not see it all that way, but if they can appreciate the emotion, then now I'm willing to be in a space where now this is my safe space now because now I could be authentic, you know. And so we have to get to a place where we want and we value authenticity in ourselves, not just in our grind. And so we have to take away what we've been reduced to, which is being not say it's a detractor, but just being a provider, being a loud voice in the house and things like that. We are so much more than that. But when we allow society and even our women, even our culture, whatever those norms might be, to dictate, um, basically who we are when we are so much more, that puts us in a box too. And
Mm.
so we could choose to stay in that box, and they're building a house for us to stay in. And unfortunately, some of us are okay with that because we see the immediate benefit. Like, oh, this girl is everything I need. Her body's right. She talks to me right, things like that. So we accept that house. But except she's
Mm.
the one that built it, not you. Y'all didn't build it together. Y'all built that was something built separately, and you chose to go in because she's in there too. And unfortunately, she can kick you out. She won't. It's her house. You know what I mean? And so
Right.
again, we have to choose what kind of house we're going to build. and we're going to have to choose who's going to be the occupant or occupants inside. And
Mm,
so, and so that takes us scaling back and really thinking about what it is that we went through, seeking out the help that we need, and then evidencing that and how we choose the people we hang around, the circles that we're involved in, and some of us still hang around hurt people, and then also choosing relationships that will further elevate that narrative and help you to rewrite that narrative. And so you have to be conscientious of when you're building this house, even with a mate, that you still have to be conscientious of who you allow in, and
mm,
so that goes back to what are we doing and what do we really want,
yeah.
and and we have to understand who we are as men first of all. That's where it all starts at. If we don't understand who we are, what we're about, our goals, if we stop dreaming, that's a problem. What is our vision? And so if we stop doing dreaming, we stop having these visualizations and things like that we have to understand that when we stop dreaming, when we stop hoping, do you know how much stops when we don't, when we stop? And so,
Yeah.
just as much as the things that we want to do in life can continue to propel us forward, the lack thereof can keep us from moving forward. And so, stagnation is a huge thing, especially when it comes to undoing the trauma, the stigma, and things like that. We always talk about how hard it's going to be, and we haven't even started yet. We always talk about how hard something is because it's so easy to stay in that house. It's so
Mm,
easy because you're already getting the mail there. The neighbors know who you are and things like that. There's all these things that they already know about you, you know, and so you don't want to leave that place of familiarity to be in a place of being peculiar, you know, and being different, and that means and to be that peculiar thing, you have to start doing the opposite of what culture is telling you to do. People gonna look at you a different way. People might say something to you. People might call you soft and all those different things. But here's the thing: when you build that house with your mate, and you begin to, you go through that process of undoing and start building up, all that kind of stuff. What's the first thing people do when you walk into a house that you built? Folks want to come over, they want to bring pies, they want to bring sandwiches, they want to introduce themselves, and things like that. So it goes back to ultimately, in undoing all this, what kind of house do you want to build and who's going to help you build it?
mm-hmm. Man, and also who gonna occupy that thing, and also who you gonna who are your neighbors going to be? Are they gonna be these a circle of people that are allow you to be a safe space, or are they just gonna be a bunch of nosy people that's gonna cackle like a bunch of hens? So I mean, we got to be cognizant of that. I mean, and to be aware of that means that you already understand where you are and where you want to be. A lot of us, and I'll say this for myself, because I wasn't at that point of knowing where I am, knowing a lot of things that I know now about myself, because I didn't because at that time I didn't care, because I didn't want to know all this stuff, because like you said earlier, Nicole, it was to peel away all those layers of that onion, to peel away all those layers to me, that was too much like work, and every layer I peeled away just hurt. Every layer I peeled away hurt more, and I didn't want to go through all that. But I had to understand that peeling away those layers was essential to getting to the root of the matter, to getting to and this is what I call it, and I say this all the time, is getting to that little boy that dwells in each and every one of us as men, and reconciling with that little boy, making and not necessarily protecting him from everything, because he's already endured what we've endured. So all those scars and all those fresh wounds and all the tear stains, that's there. It's no need no need to try to heal up though, try to help him heal those wounds. Those wounds will heal over time. But now it's just time to reconcile with that person and just say, hey, look, I'm sorry that I put you through so much crap, so much stress, so much strain, so much hurt. And I'm sorry that I exposed you to so many things that I had no idea would bring harm to you, that I didn't know that would force you to put yourself in this defensive posture or put all these layers on top of you or basically or turtle up. So I apologize for doing that. And once you reconcile with that little boy, now you're able to kind of expand yourself out or grow into who I think we should be. We ought to be men who are able to express ourselves in a cognizant fashion. We ought to be able to say what we feel and how we feel, but also make sure not only just by speaking how and what we feel, also making sure that it's understood by the people who we call our friends and our family and our mates. Because, and I think LSG talked about it a while back, emotional intelligence is important, very important. Because if your mate isn't, because first of all, if neither one of you are emotionally intelligent, it's not going to work, because somebody has to be the better one of it. Someone has got to be the sensible one here. May as well be you or me. I mean, we can flip a coin, but I'd rather it be both of us to be the sensible ones here, you know, and talk about this on a way in a level that we're able to both understand each other. And the stigma part of it puts it in a way to where we, and I said it earlier, to where we don't understand each other, to where we refuse to understand each other, or better yet, we don't want to understand each other because we're too busy at war with each other. Why? We on the same team. Why am I fighting against? Why am I fighting against? Why am I fighting against you? We got enemies on the other side of the river. Why am I fighting you to get to the other side of the river? Why?
I
You
think
know.
that comes down to, and that's a good thing. Not a good thing, but that's important. What you're saying, there's a lack of, there's already a lack of communication that's
Hmm.
there, and men and women alike are striving for, shall I say, dominance inside of the relationship. That it becomes the reason why we're fighting is because somebody feels their opinion and their feelings are vibing on the right side, and their partner is on the wrong side of things. There's a
Mm.
lot of people out there right now, a lot of young bloods out there, a lot of guys who they pretty much feel like they're the heads.
And they
They're
not,
the
bruh.
heads. They you
No,
you go to have a conversation with your
you ain't
woman,
earned that title.
and they haven't, and that's a problem. That's also and I was glad when you said that the first time, because at the end of the day, we're expecting stuff in a relationship that we have not earned. You sitting up here making demands and saying I'm the head of this, and you might be with her and you might be paying bills, but at the end of the day, what are you doing? What are you doing to make that a legitimate thing? What have you done to earn the right? And a lot of them, it's so tiring. You get on Facebook or YouTube, you see these discussions, especially YouTube, on these podcasts with these young guys that are they're wholeheartedly in, and they're using the Bible as justification for the way that they're talking to their women or acting, and
Boy.
it's a dominance thing. But you're not even married to her. You're not married to her. She's not.
So,
My,
okay, so you mentioned the Bible thing and you mentioned that. So we gonna go ahead and we gonna hop into that right now, because good googly muggly, good grief. So look, okay, so all right, so, and I'm going to word this in a way to where it does not offend anybody, but I'm also going to say it in a way to where it is understood.
hmm
And I'm going to address two things with that. One, what you just said. So these dudes that's on this podcast, you cannot jump on their podcast and remix Bible verses like you did, like you are DJ Premier, and think that somebody is going to think that a woman or a man is going to fall in line with that, with what you just said. You cannot do that. bro. You first of all, no. If you out here remixing Bible verses like DJ Premier, then what you saying is not factual. It's not accurate. You can't remix a Bible verse and then throw it out here and say that it's law. You can't do that. I'm and I like that. I'm not a biblical scholar or something like that. But I know a remixed Bible verse when I hear it, and it
Well,
sounds
some of
like
them
it's like
aren't. Some of the verses aren't necessary, and I agree with you 110%. Some of the verses they're using, however, they're not remixed. They are
regurgitated.
they're either misinterpreted or they're used with a flip. For example, you can say, you get with a woman and you can be arguing with her and you can be like, well, the Bible says the man is the head of the house. Okay. The Bible
Okay,
does say that, but are you 100%? The Bible says that. Okay. Man's head of the house. However, there
comma.
are contingencies to that. See, what they do is they take a Bible verse. There could be 5 verses and they're stuck on verse 2. They'll
Well,
throw
see,
verse 2 in your face, but they don't go to verse 3 and 4 that elaborate on that a little
see that
further, because
we
just
on the same
hitting
page,
verse
bro.
2 just quoting verse 2 gives them what they need. It helps them prove their point on verse 2. But verse 3 has alternate, or not alternate, but has a continuation to that, and that
See,
they're going to ignore. They're going to leave it alone because
we on
that
the, we
doesn't
on the same
benefit their
page, bro.
narrative.
We on the
It
same
doesn't,
page.
yeah.
We on the same page. People got it because look, this is the way that this is how I read the Bible. I read it chapter by chapter, verse by verse. But if I want to gain knowledge from a particular verse, I read what's above it and what's below it.
Right.
That's how
Because
it should be.
Right.
because there's context
There's a
in
context.
everything. There's context. Okay, so if I'm just focusing on this one verse right here, okay, let me see what's above it to where it got to here, and let me see what's below it to see what happens after that.
Yeah.
And this is the other thing that I want to address before we jump any further. So, and again, not to be offensive. Well, yeah, I think I'm gonna be offensive tonight, just for this one instance. Just for this one instance. So, and I'm saying this with a hard disclaimer, very hard disclaimer. There are wonderful organizations, religious organizations out here that that are very, very attentive about the emotional and the physical and mental needs of their congregants. So there are great many organizations, religious organizations out there that do a wonderful job of that. But for those organizations that don't do it, that don't do this, and that you perpetuate the stigmatization of mental and emotional health, you're wrong. They're wrong. And you cannot say, well, you ain't praying hard enough to get you ain't praying the depression away hard enough. What? Hold on, wait a minute. Okay, so yeah, I know I need God, but I also need therapy too. And in addition to that, I'm coming to your house to get a little help. And you gonna stigmatize me even more because I'm telling you I'm depressed, because I'm telling you I feel sad, because I'm telling you I've been crying all night and I came to your house because I want to feel some joy, but yet you're going to stigmatize me and ostracize me because of that. hmm I think some of y'all people need to be up under a microscope because, and I'm not saying, and again, not saying this to be, well, I am saying this to be offensive, but I'm also saying it to be factual because the moment that you, as a religious organization, I'm trying to find a way to say this and not, and and not be sanctioned by the Holy Episcopal Baptist Catholic coalition. You can't say that you can't tell a person that they're not praying hard enough when they're depressed. You can't say that they're not asking God to take away the depression or help them with the depression. You have no idea what they're praying for. You have no way of knowing what they even petition God for. And you just by looking at them, you can say, well, you ain't prayed hard enough. You have no idea. Why you think my eyes are bloodshot red right now? Because I've been praying all night, asking for God to help me with what I'm going through. Why do you think I came into your house, aka the hospital? I came into your house, which is aka the hospital, aka the emergency room, because I want to be healed, because I want to get healed. I want some sort of assurance from God to say everything's gonna be all right, my child. Just just be cool, be easy, trust and believe in me, calm down, and you cool. But no, you minimize that. You make light of that. You make it seem like what this person's going through is minuscule. And what may be minuscule to you is big to that person. And I'm gonna say this because I think it needs to be said. And this is not to offend, and nor is it to make anybody feel nor to make any religious organization feel small. I'm not. This is not the reason I'm saying this. I'm doing this because I want to bring awareness to this. But when you ignore the signs, and the situations that some of the congregants are going through, especially the men folk in your congregation, because they're not going to talk to you about what's going on with them. They're not going to tell you that they're struggling with trying to find a job. They're not going to tell you that they're having issues with trying to reconnect with their kids. They're not going to tell you that they struggle with addiction or abuse. They're not going to tell you that that they're just having a bad day and they just want to smile. They're not going to tell you that. So you got to coax them to get it out you. But when you minimize it and you ignore it and you don't pay attention to the signs, it makes you just as culpable.
Yeah,
And
unfortunately, I
I'm
will agree with that too,
Yeah.
because what it comes from, and it's not all pastors, not all, but there are some pastors that are still roaming the earth unhealed. They want God to touch
Mhm.
every area of their life except that part that they're comfortable with. That part that they made peace that will never go away. And they'll tell you that you ain't praying hard enough because they haven't got their release yet. They haven't got their healing yet. So how's it possible for you to get yours? You know, and so and going back to what you were talking about in terms of context, the issue is that that's also an avoidance technique. When you use a historical document like the Bible to justify. I mean, we are doing the
Mhm.
same things that slave masters did hundreds of years ago to justify slavery. We're now doing that same practice to justify how we're carrying around, to justify, being man of the house and all those different things. But the Bible is very clear about how we're supposed to motion, and so, you know, even as a husband myself, there's still guidelines that are required, and unfortunately, when we insert too much of our own feelings into that historical document, we distort the authenticity or discount the authenticity of that historical document. And unfortunately, we end up leading our own house,
Mhm.
away from the things that we really want. So we really want to be healed. We have to be in a place where we're willing to accept that there's a problem again, as I was saying earlier, and then utilize what God's created. God has created doctors and therapists and things like that for us to be able to utilize. So, our attitude towards mental health has to change. We have to change our attitude uh, towards what the culture basically dictates, that where to be like, and that we have to change what society has reduced us to. And so all these things come back to really finding out what it is that we want out of this life and what it is we want to be, and then who are the people who will be privileged to be able to be a part of that. And so as I was saying, even in building a house, choosing who gets to come in, whether it's for a long time or a short time,
Hmm.
it's evaluating our circle constantly, not just when something happens, not just at a happenstance when you're in a reflective moment. It's constantly reevaluating that circle, and then also some retrospection to figure out what am I contributing to the circle? Am I a part of the problem? You know,
Hmm.
and so that's where it all comes back full circle to who are we? And then what are we designed to do? What are we purposed to do? And then what are we doing to achieve that? And so, you know, if we are using biblical, if we're using scripture to turn around and say, well, I'm doing this because the Bible said, there are a lot of things that people will use in the term of, like Ephesians 5, when they talk about what husbands are supposed to do, and folks ain't even married, it doesn't apply. You know what I mean? And so, somebody would say, well, the Bible said a man's the head of the household, so making you a sandwich, and y'all not married. You can't use that. And even if you are married, you
Hmm.
can't even come across that way. What I mean? There has to be a gentleness and humility, this drive to serve one another consistently, to get to that particular point in time. And so, so I feel um, it's a point of outrage for me when people do those kind of things, because you know it shows that they don't value themselves. First of all, they don't value the sanctity of marriage, and then they don't value who God is. And so I've been under headship of pastors in years past where they said things like that, where you ain't praying hard enough, and God gonna bring your breakthrough if you pray 3 times or whatever and click your heels together. Here come your healing, you know. And so when
Wait
you
a
have
minute.
that kind of
We ain't in Kansas, Dorothy.
right, right. And so, but then with some people, like the young folks say, people they're just some folks are giving that, and then and so and if that's part of our wheelhouse of things to choose to accept, you see what I'm saying? Then we begin to build around that toxic mindset, that sort of toxic use of scripture and things like that. And so where you think you leading your house in the right direction, what I mean? Like you're only furthering the narrative that's already surrounded us, and we're only tightening the chains that are on us psychologically. And so
Hmm.
it is peeling back that onion, what I mean, and figuring out what the root cause is, and then deciding first of all that you're not going to be a part of the problem, because then that's going to
Right.
inform the workflow. That's going to inform what it's going to take to be able to overcome that. For some people, yes, it's therapy. For some people, yes, it's getting out of that relationship. For some people, it's even changing where you work, how you dress, and so and sometimes even your location, and so all those things are real realities when it comes to men that are really trying to overcome stigmas of varying magnitudes, and really, if we are going to do those kind of things, we can't look at it and determine how hard it is before we put our hand to the plow. You know, that's the time when you begin to develop the accountability. You look at your circle and you develop an accountability partner, somebody that you lock in arms with, and go forth together. You know what I mean? And so this is not a one man mission. This is a worldwide, widespread effort that begins when we say enough is enough. And so
Hmm.
if we don't get there, a few people can say it. You know what I mean? And that might bring a few people out. But if many people begin to say it, if our women are beginning to say it, if our children are that we're bringing up begin to say those things, then something has to change. You know, it wasn't until people start getting out there and going doing the sit-ins and going on the Million Man marches and things like that, where change began to become effectuated. We have to have that same level of outrage, that same level of outcry, and the same willingness to do, even if things are hard, be willing to do that because we want to bring about a change that is generational. And it's because of what people have done in years past that allows us to be in this spaces that we're in now, even in this space where we're able to talk, we're able to really break a lot of this stuff down to in digestible pieces so not only we can understand it, but those who we love can understand it too and begin to minister to us in a way that we can begin to start that healing process, or if we fallen off, to get that motivation to step back into that space again, knowing that you got full on support. You know, and so we need to feel that support, and that has to be evidenced at every step because we're overcoming again, not something that's just in our forefront. We're overcoming on the world that's on our back. You know what I mean? And you don't reach forward to take something off your back. You reach back to take it, like you wearing a backpack. You don't take it off from the front. You take it off from what? The back.
Back.
You know, and so you have to, and whether you do one arm at a time or both at the same, doesn't matter. That has to come off. And sometimes you might need help unpacking that so you can get that off of you. And that's okay. And we have to be okay with that. You know, but sometimes we don't even realize how damaged we have become based on our experiences and then the generational things that we have all each endured, you know, and so we may not understand all that. And so we have to be willing to be in a position where we need to be under a headship of, you know, a trusted pastor or, you know, a trusted therapist or whatnot. You know, we have to be willing to do those things, do something different to bring about a different result.
Mm. And like Latanya said, boots on the ground. I mean, another thing is like one of the things you said about is unpacking. How do you know what to how do you know what to unpack if you don't look at your luggage? If you don't unzip the luggage and look what's in the luggage, how you gonna air out your dirty laundry if you don't know what's dirty and what's clean?
There are a lot of
You know,
people out there that don't see doing that entails you looking into the mirror. Doing that entails you to have to admit that you have faults. Doing that entails you having to want to fix what you've been thinking was right or what you've been living as your truth when it's really not. It takes a level of maturity to even go there. Um, it takes work, and a lot of what I'm seeing um, in these young men and in some of the women, I'm seeing an unwillingness to bend. There's an unwillingness to bend. There's like you can't tell some of these guys that they're wrong in their thought process. You can't tell them that. That's my woman. We're together. Okay, but you're not married. So it doesn't matter whether she makes you dinner or not because she's not obligated. If she does, she's doing that out of love. But you tell them that and they're telling you you're wrong. And there's no grounding for that other than that's the way I feel. That's how I run my house. Okay. But
all right.
there's got, you know
Cool.
what I mean? But there's got to be a willingness to see where the issue is, to see that there's a problem, and then be willing to fix it. And wherever it's coming from right now, I don't know if I mean, it's got to be multiple sources. It could be the church is not doing its job. It could be, like brother said, it could be the government not doing their job. It could be the neighbors not doing their job. But right now, of we have a lot of young men out there, a lot of older men too. We got women out there. Everybody's out of order. It's like there's no order to things. They're making it up as they go. They're getting a message that says, okay, well, the guy runs everything. I run everything. It's okay if
Organized
I have
anarchy.
multiple women. It's okay if I have multiple babies and move on. It's okay if I talk to this woman any old way I want because I run this. I pay the bills, so I get to talk to her any old way I want. That's what they're doing
Mhm.
now. And they're coming up with justifications. And when I mention the church or the scriptures, it's because it's not because they're half of them that are using the scriptures aren't even going to church. They're not going to church. They just know the basic scriptures, so they're using them. That's the same thing. That's the same thing. The scripture that says God will not give you more than you can bear. Where, why you stop there? Everybody stops there with that scripture.
Read above
There's
and below
more
it.
to that scripture. It's very specific. It's not
Read above and
about
below it.
God's not gonna because if God wasn't gonna give us more than we could bear, then we wouldn't be going through half the stuff. We wouldn't be dealing with the depression. We wouldn't be dealing with all the stuff we're dealing with. It's not that he's not going to give us more than we can bear. It's that, but with those things that you have to bear, he'll make a way of escape. He has to do that. And they leave all of that out because it's a feel good generation. So it's like, okay, well, let's make them feel good. So, God, don't worry about it. God's not going to give you more than you can bear. You can get out of this. That's not what the scripture says. Scripture doesn't say
Mm.
that. But again, it goes back to the, okay, let me read verse 2. But I'm not
Read
going to go to
above and
verse
below it.
3 and 4. I'm not going to start at verse 1 because 2 is everything that I want to hear. But these again, going back to there has to be a willingness to see where the problems are and then fix them. The individual has to see that there's a problem. When I was talking with my wife and we were going through a particular situation, she had to let me know, we had to have a conversation. And she told me some things that I hadn't thought about or I wasn't paying attention to. So it was up to me to come into the knowledge and the understanding this is not copacetic. Maybe there needs to be a change on my part. If she's correct, I had to analyze myself and what I'm doing. I had to understand where she was at. I had to have a heart for her heart because I am
Mhm.
married and my job is supposed to be to protect her heart, not command her heart, not step on her heart. But that's not where these people are going right now. It's not where these brothers are going right now. They want to own everything, they want to control everything, they want to direct everything, and they come off wrong. Now, here's the flip side to that coin. When they do that, women women have a heart as well. Women have feelings as well. So after a while of having their emotions stepped on, because now see they've got a man who, this is my house,
Mhm.
I run this, I pay this, I supply this, you do what I say. Because they've gone into those relationships and they're in that, now it's, oh really? This is how you feel. We have a breakdown in the relationships now. They don't want to necessarily follow. First of all, if a woman's going to follow a man that's about something. Not only do you follow a man that's about something, but if you're going to follow him, marry him. Be about marrying that man if you're going to be all in. I mean, it's okay to date. I'm not saying don't date. I'm not saying you got to date for 1 or 2 days and jump into marriage. But what I am saying is, again, earn, like you said, Fred, earn what you want in a
Mhm.
relationship. And I don't think everything that I'm watching right now is telling me that it's all going in the opposite direction. And I understand we can say the church is lacking here. We can say the government's lacking there. We can say the neighbors and the jobs are lacking there. But at the end of the day, how do we fix it? How are we fixing the problem? Because the problem is huge. And it's what I'm seeing. You can get on YouTube and pull up these blogs or not blogs, but you can pull up all of these shows that talk where these dudes are talking reckless and they've got total disrespect for women as they're talking to women on a panel, and they're justifying why they're doing what they're doing and why they're saying what they're saying. They're justifying it. And then the women are arguing back. Now the women are being disrespectful. Why you come on the show, you being all disrespectful?
Well, you
Because
started
you're
it.
coming out of your neck, dude. You're also coming out of your neck. You're making demands on a woman that you're not even married to. You're making demands. You're talking about what your place is, but you haven't earned it. I like how you said that. They have not earned it. Earn that.
Heavy is, bro. Heavy is the
Earn
head
it.
that
Like
wears.
you up here making demands. And again, and we have a lot of these conversations, but again, it always ends with a question in my head. How are we going to fix this? Like literally fix this. Can this be fixed? And if it can, how do we fix it? Because the churches aren't fixing it right now. The churches, shoot, these dudes are using Bible verses to
There, but
justify how
the
they're the
the church
king of their home. They're the
the church
head
is
of their home.
the
They're
church is
doing that.
responsible. The church is
So it's
responsible, but
so the churches aren't going to fix it. We have shows and you know, people tune in and they hear it and they have opinions and everything. But how are we going to fix the mindset of the people that are doing this now? Because it's spreading. They now can get on YouTube and any other social platform and they can spew everything they're spewing about how women are disrespectful. Women want to be the heads. And in some instances, that is true. I'm not going to say it's all lies. Some women, you know, feel a need to run their home and do the things that they do. But at the end of
okay.
the day, what kind of
Compromise.
situations have they been in where they feel where they're made to feel like they don't have a choice?
Mm,
They got with a
like I said,
dude that almost had them living on his corner. He couldn't be trusted. I'm the head of the house, but you taking the money and
nah,
you buying PlayStations, Xboxes. You out there doing whatever you want with your money and her money. Now you don't
choices and
have bill. You don't
Tony.
have the money for the
That's
bill. Right? You exactly. You don't have the
choice,
money for the
Tony. That's
bills.
choices and consequence. That's choices and consequences.
It
That is
is.
choices and
It
consequences. That
is. It's choices
he
and
made a
consequences.
choice.
So
They
now,
both they
but now
both
the
they both
woman
pay the price.
leaves. Yeah, but now the woman leaves. Now she's with somebody else. There, we've already said that there are consequences to certain
Yeah,
things. There are ramifications. There are stigmas that are
yeah.
added to things. So now, as far as I'm concerned, like this woman went through hell. It's the same thing that a man does. When we started this conversation, we said, okay, you know, how do we get out of that stigma? And how is it that how do we get to show that we have a heart and we, you know, how can we be sensitive and it be okay because of the
That's
stigma of being hurt before? But women also go through that and then they're in a situation where they have to run their house because they've gone in and trusted a man who almost put them in the streets with nothing. So now
that's
they're in another relationship. So the next dude that they get with, especially if there's no conversation, they're looking to make sure that it doesn't happen again.
right. I
The
get you on
woman,
that.
the woman is like, I'm not letting that happen again. So now she's searching for some type of control herself so that it doesn't happen again. You want to tell me to let you lead, and then you lead me into a ditch. And then
But
after
aren't we?
you led me into the ditch, then you're gonna tell me you still want to lead.
But aren't we all searching for some modicum of control?
Okay, but and this is true because in my house, me and my wife, we work together. We work
Right.
together. Like it and she can feel confident in saying if I'm overspending or I'm doing something, she can say that to me. If I
Right.
go to the left, I can trust her. I'm trusting her to tell me, babe, we're going to the left with this. She'll trust me to be like, babe, we are going to the left. I've told my wife that before when I started concerned with a bill or something. I'm like, babe, how about we don't go in the store and get such and such?
But my question
I
to
like
you is,
to spend money on
this,
food.
Tony. But my question to you is this, Tony. That trust was earned, wasn't it?
Exactly. It was earned.
There we
And
go. I mean that's all
it
that
was
really needs to
earned.
be said.
And that's but these dudes are not looking for that. They're not looking for that. There's no trust in these relationships now, which is why everybody's looking for control. And it's not
Mm,
even partial control, because you're right. Everybody's looking for a little bit of control. That's fine. But when you're trying to control the whole show, that's a problem.
nah,
Because you're not the only
not me.
one running the show. You're
Exactly.
not. These brothers will get with a woman who's solidified. I told my 5-year-old daughter, I said, look, I'm going to teach you. Well, I didn't tell her. I just did it. I'm like, I'm going to fix it so that she has a mindset to have her own place, her own money, which is bank account, a car, and a job. Because I did not want to see her. And this is when I was younger. I did not want to see her get taken advantage of by any other man. Then a man comes in there and she's living with him. She don't have a job. She doesn't have her own money. Now he gets mad. She's got nowhere to go but home, but back to her parents, because he done kicked her out. She can't get where she got to go because he done took the car, kicked her out of the car, the whole nine.
Right.
Like, no, have your own. It's okay if he has his, and if y'all get together and you share, that's cool. But
I get it. I
I
get you, bro.
I
I get
didn't want that. You to fight for control. You are 100% right, Fred. Everybody
yeah.
wants a piece of control. That's fine, but a piece. Don't try to run the whole show,
Yeah.
especially when
Yeah.
you haven't earned it. You ain't even bought a ticket to the show. You just trying to say you own it.
So
You trying
you
to
got
run
in
a
free.
show.
You got in
You
free.
snuck in the back door of that show talking about you run it. You can't do that. You can't
Right.
do that. And how do we fix that mindset? That I'm always thinking on that. How do we fix that mindset? And we
It's
don't
going
have the Martin Luther Kings anymore. We don't have the Malcolm X's.
nah.
Who do we have teaching our young men that this is not how you treat women? Who do
Well,
we have for women, for female leaders, teaching the females how to deal with their men?
well, that's
Or,
the that
better question, who do we have telling everybody how to communicate?
it starts at the bottom, bro. It starts at the bottom. And we gotta get out of here, man, because I most definitely want to replay this again. But oh my gosh, this right here was a very nice bill. Thank you for showing up and coming in, bro. Mr. Mason, I appreciate you for coming in and building with us, bro, man. Man, we gotta have you come back again because I most definitely want to do a part 2 of this. Um, before I roll up out of here, man, I want to leave y'all with this particular thought. And heavy is the head that wears the crown.
Mm,
However, you better understand the weight of that crown.
mm, tell it.
If you want that, you want a crown. If you want a crown, you got to earn it. It's not given to you by nepotism or anything or succession or nothing like that. You want a crown, you earn it. And you can't be king or queen of no castle if you ain't earned that, if you ain't earned the title.
Amen.
But but the one thing I will say about this, the thing about stigma, this is something that has to be talked about. It needs to be talked about more often because the more we talk about it, the more we talk about it, the more we engage and build, the more we're able to break these things down at a cellular level, and then we can build it back up to where we build. Not only do we build up that person's mind and their emotional mindset, we also build up this whole person. You know, there's a lot of us walking around here that are not healed and that are not whole. I'm gonna tell you that I ain't nowhere near healed and I ain't nowhere near whole, but I guarantee you I'm on a path to getting there. And as long as I'm on a path to getting there, and I can see it, I can see the light at the end of the tunnel. I'm gonna keep driving toward that light until I reach that light.
Mm,
I may not reach it in this lifetime, but I guarantee you there gonna be some lessons I'm gonna take along the way that's gonna help me to continue to be a better person. Like I said, I want to thank Mr. T Wade and Mr. Mr. Nkosi Mason for being here tonight, man. Brothers, I appreciate the bill, man. Look, Mr. Mason, your timing was perfect.
Yes, sir.
Perfect timing.
Yes,
Perfect
sir.
timing, sir. Perfect timing. Look, we got to do a part two of this, man. Before we get up out of here, look, I want to tell y'all, thank y'all for being here tonight. Thank y'all so very much for being here tonight and building with us. Um, we are going to do a replay of this. Share this with a brother in your with a brother in your circle because man, they let them watch this podcast, let them listen to this podcast, this particular episode, and let's build with each other, y'all. It's man, it's crazy how we cannot build with each other because we always think we have to be the owner of a person or a somebody of someone or something.
Mm-hmm.
And be honest with you, we ain't owners of nothing except our own lives. And really, our life. And I'll be honest with you, our lives don't even belong to us.
Tell it.
So I'm gonna leave y'all with that. We're definitely gonna get a part two going here, man. So look, please like, share, subscribe. We got a YouTube channel, man. Go to our YouTube channel, Trailblazers with a Z Radio, man. We have a bunch of content right there, man. Take a look at our content if you like it and it agrees with you and it resonates with you. Hit that subscribe button, hit that bell notification to be notified when we come on the air, when we have shows like this and topics like this, because when we build, we build. I promise you,
Yep.
when we build, we build. And look, y'all, the other thing I want to say, we got merchandise. So go to our website, www.trailblazersradio.com/shop. We got plenty. We got merch out there. We're also going to jump into some advertising stuff, man. So contact us. And I'm actually gonna leave y'all with this little short video about the opportunity to advertise with us, man. Because I want you guys to really want you guys to really take look at what you guys have and advertise with us because we got some advertising packages that'll fit your needs. And I want you guys to most definitely look into that. Ladies and gentlemen, again, I want again thanking Mr. Inco. You gotta tell me how I pronounce your first name, Mr. Mason.
It's Nikosi.
Nkosi Mason. Got you. I gotta
Oopsie.
thank my brother, Mr. Nkosi Mason, and my brother T Way for showing up, man. Home run out the box, everything of that nature. I'm gonna leave y'all with three things that I always say when I end these podcasts. Number one, take care of each other. Number two, be good to each other. Number three, we already know it's a crazy world out here. So above all things, y'all please just be safe out here. I love y'all with the love of God, and we'll see y'all in the next one. Oh yeah. Um, last thing I want to say before we get up out of here. Friday morning, tune in for an Authors Alley special episode that will air exclusively on YouTube and Twitch. Um, I'll make sure that the YouTube link is available for everybody to view. I'm going to be talking to Dr. Carolyn Coleman, and we're going to be talking about a lot of some books and things a book that she has written. She's going to talk about some snippets in that, and also tomorrow morning, I'm gonna be not tomorrow morning, but there's an episode that I recorded with a friend of mine, Dr. Annette West. I am being interviewed by Dr. Annette West on her show, on her podcast, the Publishing Pusher podcast. That is available on Spotify. I'll make I put a Facebook post out early, so the link is there for you guys to check out. And on that note, I'm out of here. Check out this video for advertising, and we out of here, y'all. See you.
Peace.